Hello, my name is Cameron Pratt, and you're listening to the read along for Brass Tacks 1 Ghost Cities. Abstract. Ghost cities are a testament to the extremes of human ambition. Expansive urban landscapes built with grand visions, yet left largely uninhabited. From China's Kangbashi district, designed to house 1 million but struggling to attract residents, to the oil rich metropolises of the UAE, where wealth fuels unchecked expansion. These empty spaces highlight the delicate balance between economic planning and actual demand. Beyond miscalculated growth, some ghost cities, like Myanmar's Naypyidaw, serve as tools of political strategy, intentionally isolated to shield regimes from public dissent. Through these varied lenses, this piece explores how urban development, governance, and societal needs converge, and sometimes clash, to create landscapes of absence. Introduction. Empty roads, overgrown buildings, and an eerie silence at every turn. Chances are the term ghost town isn't unfamiliar to you. It evokes images of tumbleweeds drifting across sand-covered streets, graffiti-stained walls, and shattered glass. Remnants of a world abandoned as resources dry up or disaster strikes. Nashima Island in Japan, Pripyat, Ukraine, even Taos, New York, each vastly different in size and scope, yet each with its own tale of success given way to decline and eventual abandonment. Each of these places, among many others, have stories to tell. That is, they've existed in the temporal zeitgeist and maintained a sphere of influence for a time. Today, there are places that exist on the opposite end of the spectrum, built for the many, yet home to the few, if anyone at all. Hollow jungles of concrete that speak no stories but the resonant echo of their empty walls. These are the undaunted haunts of absence. Let's get down to them. These are the brass tacks on ghost cities. A malpractice in zeal. To expand is one of the major facets of the human condition. Ingrained in our DNA is a drive to reproduce, to make more, and assert our influence within our unique spheres. A community is much the same way, in that the fundamental directive of municipality seeks to operate at or for the behest of its citizens by accruing capital and delivering public works. Towns grow into cities that grow into metropolitan zones as generations pass, the interwoven fabric of society drawing populations closer together. It is a natural inclination, then, for places such as these to predict and plan for extensive infrastructure gains. Take Ordos in China and its Kangbashi district. Often represented as a poster child for unrealistic expectations, the district was imagined to take advantage of a late 20th century coal boom. Planned to house over 1 million people, Kangbashi was designed with all the necessities of a modern metropolis: housing, schooling, parks, arenas, medical facilities, and more. In theory, the region was staged to become a thriving urban center under the banner of energy production and modern amenities. In practice, the efforts to facilitate migration to the region faltered. No one needed to move there, save for the smattering of workers and their families who were entrenched in the coal industry. Far from the coastal powerhouses of the Chinese commerce, Ordos and Kangbashi seemed distant and foreign. By 2009, the Kangbashi district housed merely 30,000 people, a far cry from its hopes of 1 million strong. Nearly 2 decades on, and through a global pandemic, the district is now home to 120,000 to 150,000 residents. Through lines can be traced from a variety of different sources as to why these ghost cities have come to exist. Pertaining to China is the population crisis, as birth rates have fallen every year since 2021, even with the one-child policy being nullified in 2015. As expected, the COVID-19 pandemic is to share blame, too, both in childbearing rates and in the overarching track of migration and global commerce. Real estate moguls invest themselves in the land without the proof of concept paying itself forward. In these instances, we see macro trends being disregarded as to pay purchase towards notions of capital accruement. In doing so, the scaling of expectation pays little heed to the material necessity of a populace. As it stands, a ghost city exists on the extremes of where supply and demand never venture to meet. Promises of glory are met with a tepid reality, marking scenes that are sterile impressions of the original vision. Wherein a social ecosystem can be measured on the efficacy of purpose, places like leaves leave a void that, tangibly, cannot be filled for decades. Yet, elsewhere, a different kind of spectacle unfolds, one where excess, rather than absence, defines the landscape. In cities built on boundless wealth, demand is not a question, but a given, shaping environments that thrive on their own perpetuation. The worth of want. The UAE presents such a reality. In cities like Dubai and Riyadh, the excesses of wealth drive ceaseless expansion, forming a striking embodiment of opulence. Here, demand fuels supply. The market is a self-sustaining reflection of oil wealth and the inherent status afforded to a select few. In fairness, this glut of expenditure has in and of itself become the draw of these places, wealth begetting wealth through the relentless tourism and novelty. Systemic fractures between the desires of a municipality and its populace override the issue of what a society needs to survive. Politically speaking, how one marries Maslow's hierarchy of needs with what role the government plays in doing so effectively serves as the genesis of the political spectrum of ideology. The discussion of how plays out in election cycles, or the lack thereof, throughout the globe. Through that, divorced from where in the spectrum leadership is granted, we see a willingness of a populace to grant a semblance of authority to this body in power. Need becomes the system through elections and governance. Want becomes the identity in factions. With the structure provided by governance resolved to the understanding that the method of delivery thereof will be relatively constant, humanity is therein granted a space to fulfill their hierarchy of needs and give credence to a governing body responsible to fill the gaps. Ghost cities, then, exist as a modality of an administration failing to understand the current pressing needs of its representative population. Returning to Dubai and Riyadh, said pressing needs of their population, at least the presenting class of the ultra-wealthy, is for excess. In a way, the black gold-gotten gains of this ruling class has allowed them to circumvent the traditional hierarchy. Expediting the process of satisfying the material needs, we see a society concerned with matters of regard rather than the cost of their groceries. However, while this appearance of grandeur is impressive, much of it is built upon a limited resource. One day, at the current rates of consumption, the music will stop. If the current identity of these places is to continue on following a potential depletion, they must shift to a sustainable justification of existence. Contrasting this extreme, the average municipality is tasked with providing for the security that citizens may pursue their hierarchy of needs unfettered. Police, public works, transportation, and more are designed to facilitate an easing of this pursuit. Any breach in the social contract that is taxation leads to discontent. The unfortunate reality of politicking these issues is that credit due for success will always be overshadowed by a failure. Much in the same way that a person won't acknowledge their health until something is actively wrong, so too does a populace take for granted the things in their social ecosystem that function well, until they don't. To this end, there is pragmatic vision from a municipality attempting to build out ahead of perceived needs. But where this is something to be supported, it also has to be tempered by the understanding that said municipality will not put wants of the future over the needs of the present. When integration and revitalization give way to expansion and projection, the society as a whole is prone to suffer. Marrying satisfactory security, needed to pursue the hierarchy of needs, with a sustainable growth mindset, respecting the limited resources of the municipality, makes for a critical pivot point in the long-term success of a region. Beyond reach, befitting reproach. Setting aside projections, there is a foundational agreement in place that a municipality or administration is established to serve. Where the establishment thereof will continue to be a subject of study for the social sciences, confidence yet remains in the order of exchange between a state and its populace. This, however, says nothing for the satisfaction of said people with the state. Indeed, time and again, revolutionary flags will fly so long as discord exists between the wants of the public versus the needs the administration attempts to fulfill. Fundamentally, the grant of power to an administration, by election, force, or institution, also bears with it the ways and means of appropriation, and, by that vestiture, assumes a responsibility to act in the interest of, and be held accountable to, the community appropriated from. When a disconnect occurs, unrest follows, often taking place in the form of protest outside of the respective municipality or government building. In these highly public demonstrations, sympathy for the masses grows, and the heat is put to heal for those in charge to make a change. As a means to remove themselves from these demonstrations, a concerning pattern of relocation of government facilities has emerged within authoritarian regimes. Naypyidaw, Myanmar's capital as of 2005, was contracted by the military to be built in the mountain region of the country. Hundreds of miles from the former capital of Yangon, this urban center boasts 20-lane superhighways and other megastructures, without supporting population to fill the space. Indeed, where China's Ghost Cities served a purposeful, albeit exaggerated, expansion initiative, Naypyidaw was constructed hastily, and seemingly with the sole intent of maneuvering the coup-imposed regime to a defensive position, away from a larger sect of the population. 2 decades on, the city, boasting a zoned area of 7,000 square kilometers, still carries a sub-million citizen threshold, many of whom were forcefully displaced, work for the military junta, or serve for the upkeep of the city. Following the coup in 2023, disposing the democratically elected Aung San Suu Kyi and the NLD party, Naypyidaw now serves as a fortress for the current military government. While protests were violently put down in Yangon, those responsible for the coup operated safe and sound hundreds of miles away. As the civil war in the region continues, the immediate physical disconnection of the capital allows for further distancing between the state and its populace, shielding the administration from demonstrations and accountability alike. In Egypt, too, do we see a city sprouting up from the desert to serve the best interest of the government. The aptly named New Administrative City, or NAC for short, broke ground in 2016. Located 30 miles from Cairo, the NAC has the face value of being a modernized district aimed to facilitate matters of state. Indeed, there is a case to be made for the expansion regarding the metropolitan area, which houses 50,000 citizens per square mile. However, with Cairo being a hotbed for protests, such as the notable demonstrations in Tahrir Square circa 2011, the effort to explicitly move the administrative center of the state away from the larger population is enough to raise eyebrows. Such as it is, the Administrative Capital for Urban Development, or ACUD, the company overseeing the project, has sunk tens of billions in US dollars into the project. The ACUD, such as they are, is 51% owned by the Egyptian military. Indeed, revolutions need not be televised. In this digital era, communication reigns supreme in the spaces governed by snap-second sound bites that afford us a daily dose of dopamine. In turn, this fuels the fire of what in-person gatherings represent, doubly so in a post-pandemic society. If the social contract between state and populace is to be upheld, it must be done so via accountability and accessibility. To that end, demonstrations and protests, non-violence intended, occupy an important place in the fabric of our social world. By extricating themselves to what we shall pen as fortress cities or zones, the administration at large shows a hand of dominion, utilizing public resources in the name of self-preservation while masking a service of public interest. Bones of the future, passed into controversy. Throughout the course of human history, the relationship cultivated between the provider power and its constituents has been one of criticism. Deserved or no, there is a prevailing sentiment of, "What have you done for me lately?" taken towards a municipality or administration. The harsh reality of most initiatives brought forth by those in power is that all too often they are removed before their vision bears fruit. That isn't to suggest that the idea of term limits or churning of officials is void. On the contrary, fresh ideas open up the doors to airing out the echo chambers. Seniority does not scale with effectiveness, only the experience in finding a path to keep a role filled. The cases we looked at today ameliorate a through line of mishandled resources. In China, we see urban sprawl designed to fill needs of a populace that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, in the UAE, urban playgrounds rise for an ultra-wealthy sect of society, adulterating the basic foundations of what the human condition represents. Concerning, too, are the measures taken in Myanmar and Egypt, using public capital to establish new capital districts away from the immediate reach of the citizenry. It isn't easy to govern, nor is it a simple task to accurately outline and build for the needs of a growing community. While the matter of institution of an administration should not be overlooked, the fundamental responsibility of any government is to provide for the needs of its constituency. Ghost cities represent an extreme in the perception of said needs, offering us a window into the intentions behind what is important to a ruling body: expansion, security, status, done at face value for the public good, but subtly marked as a land grab or as a measure of personal interest. There is merit to growth, to nurture a community and make better the space by which everyone can live freely and pursue their needs in peace. That is the charge of a municipality. In turn, it is the duty of the citizenry to hold accountable their leaders as to the proper utilization of public resources. When in balance, social harmony comes through. Never perfect, but always in the pursuit thereof, lest the echoes of our collective desires haunt the empty streets once more. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. My name is Cameron Pratt, and I hope you have enjoyed your time here at Tacks Media. You can follow us at Tacks Media, Tacks Media, on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok.